Hi, everybody. Once again, we're here for the AISH Imperfect podcast, and we're going to start off with Yvonne today. She's going to be here talking to us about the importance of the mind-body connection and why that's so important. So, Yvonne, tell us a little bit about why this topic is so important to you.
Well, it resonates with me because starting at the age of 1, I had really severe asthma. Then at about age 11, I developed really severe digestive issues. At the age of 15, following a 7-inch growth spurt over about a 14-month period, I ended up with scoliosis. And so I've spent most of my early adult life having just lots of physical pain. I had lots of emotional stuff that I dealt with too, because I came from a large Italian family. And so, not that I didn't have lots of love and lots of really, really good food, there was also a lot of chaos with 7 people in the household, right? It's like you fought to be heard and, all of those sorts of things. Anyways, at about my mid-30s, I had one of my coworkers came to me and said that she knew that I dealt with a lot of back pain and headaches and different things. And if I was open to trying alternative types of modalities. So I said, I'm open to anything. I just want the pain to go away. And so I started my journey doing Bowen therapy, which is an Australian healing technique. And that really did alleviate a lot of the tension that I had in my muscles. And then he recommended I try somebody who worked more on a subconscious level. It wasn't hypnotherapy, but a different type of modality that worked with the subconscious, and got lots of mileage out of that as well. But I always felt like it wasn't quite the right thing. Then I ended up having a car accident where I had a 4-year migraine. And then I ended up trying a process called Body Talk, which ended up getting rid of my migraines after 3 or 4 sessions. So I thought, wow, this is great. And then ultimately, I was referred to Catherine for hypnotherapy. And some of the changes that I experienced were just so profound and so long lasting that I thought, wow, I really think this is the silver bullet. At least for me, it was definitely the silver bullet. And one day I found myself, as I started to get to the other side of all this emotional baggage and emotional pain, I started to think, what is the reason for all of this? Like, this learning that I have gone through and this journey that I've gone through can't just be for me. And what I really got was that there's a huge connection between the mind and the body. And anyways, that was really the pivotal moment where I decided to become a hypnotherapist myself.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah,
Are you saying that the hypnotherapy with Catherine alleviated your physical pain while you were solving the emotional issues?
absolutely.
Okay, that's what I thought you were saying. Just wanted to clarify that.
Yes, yes. To my surprise, it's true. In fact, I joke and I say that I'm Benjamin buttoning things because I feel like I'm getting younger as I get older and I'm getting healthier as I get older. And it's fabulous.
Yeah,
It's
awesome.
thanks to this work.
I can totally relate to that. I can feel myself if I get too stressed out or I get angry, I give myself a headache in about 30 seconds flat. So
Mhm.
I know that mine are
Mhm.
connected. What about you, Kelly? You have anything like that that
Oh
shows up for
God,
you?
yeah. Well, I often tell my story about how I spontaneously healed through hypnotherapy for my 15 years of anxiety and depression. So absolutely. And it tipped into OCD and all kinds of stuff, physical and headaches. So I became a believer and I talk to my clients all the time about how emotional states cause about 85% of physical manifestations. So yeah, I firsthand have that account as well as holding space for a lot of other people it really helps too.
What about you, Catherine? Have you got any examples that come to mind?
Oh gosh, yes. Been an orthopedic patient since the day I was born. And I had one experience where I've had trouble with the right hip since with hip dysplasia, but then the left hip was starting to give me trouble and get achy and I was in pain with that. And I thought, well, that's no. That's the non-surgery side. That shouldn't be a problem. So while I was in hypnosis one morning, I had a conversation with my left hip. I said, so what's your deal? This is not acceptable. And the message I got was there's a lot of resentment. You're making me do all the work because you keep shifting your weight and making me support you and not walking and standing balanced with your weight equal on both sides. And I'm done. I'm tired of it. I'm not doing it. So I had to make an agreement with that hip that I would train myself to keep myself balanced and use my right leg more normally. And when I did that, it took a while, took quite a while, but then the left hip quit hurting.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I
But
love
it
it.
was a clear message. Knock it off, lady.
There's also a connection between the left side of the body and the right side of the body. Typically, and it does change for some people, but typically my association, what I've been told, is that the left side indicates issues that are stemming from past or past life versus right is current. So that would be consistent with your left side acting up because you've learned how to overcompensate and overuse that side. And so it's saying enough, right?
Yep.
Hmm.
It did put its foot down, metaphorically
And literally.
and literally. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Yvonne, do your clients understand the mind body connection now that you're practicing? Do they understand it?
Yeah, I would say that oftentimes when they first come in, they do not, but I make sure that they do, right? And it always comes up because as you're, digging in and unpeeling that onion, there's always some sort of like where are they feeling it in the body, and the more we talk about it, it's obviously they get it, and then we start working on it, and the pain starts to go away, and they're happy, and everybody wins.
I
They
had a
never
client.
forget it too. They never forget it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, it's so impactful. Yeah, I had a client who had a physical issue with her bladder and agreed to finally, we were so many sessions in on her package working on this particular problem. And finally, we uncovered an old memory that was really painful to her. And she resolved that blockage and everything resolved. It was the miracle session. So that was an amazing experience. And I won't forget it either because, it was just an interesting, really interesting thing to really sit with. I spend time with my clients talking about that too with my bodywork background.
Mhm.
Do you address the ailing part or do you address the emotional part when you're working with people?
I generally attempt both. So I'll start with the ailing part and generally do parts therapy, or sometimes it ends up being a parts party and whatnot. Sometimes I find that the part doesn't really want to talk. And so then we'll try back doors and side doors. I've actually had a lot of success when you address the emotional piece, which, can end up being, you may go anywhere, right? But I found a lot of times I end up in past life situations. So,
I know Kelly does a
and
lot of that kind of work too.
mhm,
Cellular trauma. Sometimes it has
mhm,
nothing to do with this lifetime. And if you've
exactly.
circled the wagons and tried to identify it in this lifetime, then you know that you need to go back.
Backwards.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you have any particular methods you like to use, Catherine?
It just depends on how the client presents, but if they're having physical things, then I do like to have a gestalt dialogue. If it does, and then I come back to other methods. If it doesn't, I like the what you were talking about, Yvonne, the side door. I'm all about the side door. If one thing doesn't work, well, let's slide into how about let's see if this will work. Oh, look, that works. So this is what I love about hypnotherapy in general. You get to be creative and do something fresh with every client, so you're never going to be bored because every client presents and needs something just a little different. They're all a little bit unique,
Mm-hmm.
so it's never exactly the same approach.
Mhm.
And
True.
anyone worth their salt as far as their training, they have a lot of techniques to go to. If you can pivot and switch from one to the next, to the next, to the next, you never really run out. And
Right.
the creativity comes from just even going outside that box, So there's so much. We're only limited by our imagination.
That is so true.
Definitely. So, Yvonne, do people come to you mostly for physical pain or emotional pain? What's your stats?
My experience is they typically come in for emotional stress and strain. There's always almost indefinitely a body connection to it. They don't realize that there's a body connection at the beginning, right? But generally, I find that people come to me more for emotional. It's probably 80%, and then maybe 20% are for physical.
My practice is like that too, mostly emotional,
Yeah.
hit the wall with stress or, too much going on, but there is there is almost always a physical component to that because we get that felt sense. Can't get a felt sense if the body's not involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
I
I'll
always
go ahead, Cal.
I always explain that whenever you're dealing with the emotional aspects of their stuck point, that it's going to help them across the board in life, not just that one issue, but across the spectrum of their life. And usually the byproduct of that is more comfort and ease in the body. So you deal with the emotional, a lot of the time the pain gets resolved.
Well, all you have to do is imagine yourself being stressed for a second, and almost always what happens is those shoulders come up. It's easy to
Stomach
point
gets
out,
tight.
yeah, it's easy to point out to somebody a mind-body connection, but in the everyday life, they may not recognize that they're having physical pain or people that have, I know I'm not trying to diagnose anybody, but stomach issues are also involved with that kind of repeated stress. And, so people in this day and age, the way that our communities operate, the body is taken out of hmm, the body is taken piece by piece and treated by the medical practice. We have a stomach issue, we treat the stomach, but the stomach issue could very well be absolutely related to the emotions and the thoughts and the belief system. So we have a lot of ability to help people, like Kelly said, in myriad ways. It's going to affect every area of their life, and we don't even have to talk about their stomach.
And it's high time we stop treating the symptom.
Mhm.
Even when I was a kid growing up, uh, I remember having trouble swallowing uh, at a time when my parents were getting divorced, and I was having trouble, and I went through the medical community put me through all these tests, and finally our family doctor asked me what was bothering me, what was I sad about, and I said my dad moved out, and my mom won't talk about it, and I cried, I think at the time, and my that was it, that was the end of having trouble swallowing, but nobody'd asked me how I was feeling.
Mm.
They just kept treating the physical, the physical, the physical. And he was the only one who said, "How are you feeling?" "Oh, I'm sad." Yeah,
And your throat chakra was just having so much trouble.
Yeah.
it was. It was like magic, though. I remember him asking me that, and I expressed my emotions, and it was over. Because my mom wouldn't talk about it. She was so upset about the whole thing. She couldn't talk about it, so we weren't allowed to bring it up. There was no discussion. My sister didn't like him, so she's celebrating. I'm the only one who appears to be upset. So then I couldn't swallow. So,
Aw. Well, I'm glad you got to get that resolved.
yeah,
Got an
And someone
intelligent,
finally asked.
yeah, emotionally intelligent practitioner.
he was amazing. Clearly, he was amazing and ahead of his time.
Yes.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Well, Yvonne, do you generally confirm your client's pain is theirs or from somebody else, maybe? Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so for me, when I first started going through the process of my healing journey, it was one of the people that I started working with, they said, "You don't appear to have much protective layer. How do you not pick up other people's stuff?" And I said, "Wow, I'm so glad you brought that up because I pick up people's stuff all day long and I talk to probably 100 people a day. So all day long, I'm like, release, release, release. I'm just like, this is driving me nuts." And so she said, well, I think you need a shield. So I'm like, oh, that'd be great. Well, a lot of what I was picking up, and I was picking it up because I wanted to solve and help other people, right, with their problems. So I would glob onto it, but that also gave me their pain. So I had a lot of pain running through my body. So as soon as we put the shield up, probably half of my pain disappeared. So I do try to assess if people are, super intuitive or sensitive, and make sure that they have the protection that they need so that they're not doing what I used to do. Because it does make it very confusing also, because you've got all their emotional stuff running around, plus you have all their physical pain. So you kind of got to separate the two.
Hmm. Yeah, there's, it's been helpful to have social media be talking about empaths because most everybody's, well, a lot of people have heard that word now. It's at least more in the mainstream. So it's pretty simple now to sit with a client and you can kind of suss out with what they're saying if you have to talk to them about this. And
Yes.
I find it very easy to say to people, oh, it sounds like you're describing some qualities of an empath. Do you know what that is? Oh, yeah, I've heard of that. So it's a good conversation to have with people.
So many times, though, that word is a double-edged sword. It brings awareness that that's what's happening, but some people are invested in victimhood of being an empath. That's problematic to me.
Me
You can
too.
have, yeah, right.
Hmm.
Talk to me about what you
Well,
observe about that.
well, Kelly, you know how I feel about victims.
Yeah.
It's one of my triggers.
Yeah,
It's one of
I
my
know.
triggers. Well, um, I do my level best intuitively to have a conversation with them directly about that if possible, if I feel like they can handle it and there's not a lot of resistance to that idea.
Okay.
And introduce an opportunity that they do not have to operate that way. And if that goes well, then we can talk about that. But if I get some resistance, then, maybe the topic will shift or we'll do something else.
Mhm. Yeah, because they're not powerless to it.
No.
Half the battle is the acknowledgement that that's what's happening.
Yes.
But then, to understand that there's you don't have to be powerless to, and there are things that you can do. So it's helpful when you have some offerings for them so that you're not just telling them you're not powerless. Here's how.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Give them something to hang their hat on.
Hmm. Well, it's good to have these conversations about the mind-body connection because out there in the general public, I don't know that they know. So it's good that we're having this discussion. It's good that we're opening it up to the other hypnotherapists who are watching this. Maybe that will inspire some of them to open up this avenue of thinking if they haven't done that already.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any follow-up thoughts, Yvonne?
No, just listen to your body and help your clients make sure that they listen to theirs, because there's information that is trying to be shared with them, and it's important. If you were
Hmm.
comfortable, you probably wouldn't make any changes.
Absolutely. And it's really helpful if you can help somebody learn the language that their body is speaking.
Yes.
That's very helpful. Catherine, do you have any follow-up thoughts to this?
Nothing that comes to mind right now. I think I'm good.
Okay, Kelly?
Yeah. One last thing. Generally speaking, when we're talking about does it belong to them or someone else? I will say consistently what I see is when people have back pain, back and shoulder pain, they're usually carrying the burdens of others that don't belong to them, carrying a burden of responsibility. So that's always a good place to go to with people who are coming in with severe back pain.
Very good thought. Well, thank you, everybody. This has been a lovely discussion. So we will see you guys all next time.
Good. Thank you.